Welcome back to Petty Astrology. I'm your host, Kaycee Felton-Lui. This Taurus season has hit me pretty hard. All I really want to do is lay down, eat some snacks, and enjoy the finer things in life. And let me tell you, I've been doing as much of that as I possibly can. In a culture that worships at the altar of efficiency and productivity, at times it can feel like doing something wrong to engage with these very basic aspects of what it means to be alive on this planet. And that's really sad. Why should we feel guilty for resting and enjoying the bounties of this planet that we've been placed on? You can do that, contrary to popular belief, without destroying the place or taking advantage of other people. But so many of us struggle with the guilt of just being, just existing and not having to earn it. As we move through the next 19 years of Pluto in Aquarius, we're being asked to look at that guilt, look at where that sense of shame that's been hiding under the surface comes from. We are in the midst of a radical transformation for humanity. And that means we're going to have to confront some things that simply aren't working for us. But we get the chance to replace those things with something much better. And that's what this week's Taurus new moon is all about. Today on the podcast, the Taurus new moon. Act like you're worth it. "2026 has just been flying by, and we are already approaching this year's Taurus new moon. And it's happening on May 16th at 1 p.m. Pacific at 25 degrees and 57 minutes of Taurus. Every new moon is an invitation to channel the energy of a given astrological season into your own intentions. And it's also the beginning of a 6-month period that energy is ringing out over. This one feels particularly significant because 6 months from this Taurus new moon is the Scorpio full moon. And that is happening the weekend after the US midterm elections. And now I know all of my listeners are not in the United States, and I'm really happy for that. Thank you, welcome. And I'm sorry that I always use the United States as an example, but this is where I live. And unfortunately, it's so relevant to the rest of the world. This is an especially important election because it's either going to give Donald Trump's regime more power or throw up some roadblocks that are sorely needed in this march towards fascism that we keep going deeper and deeper into. It's important to remember that when we're talking about astrology and transits, we're talking about global themes. So it's not just the United States that's marching towards fascism, but given the dominance of this country over the rest of the world, American fascism is particularly empowered. If you haven't listened to my bonus episode of Petty Astrology on the astrology of 2026, this might be a good time to revisit some of the things that I've been talking about since January. A lot of this we knew was coming. We knew that voting was going to be as threatened as they can possibly get away with. We knew that there was likely going to be even more gerrymandering and remapping. And we knew that the Trump regime was going to go after its enemies and try to use that as an excuse to further militarize, surveil, and police people in the United States. They know that what they're doing is incredibly unpopular, so they have to do everything that they can to force their will upon the people. This has always been the plan. They just thought that more people would be on board. The good news is that most Americans think this shit sucks on some level. And with rising gas prices and the economy taking the shit that I said it was going to take, we have enough momentum to build adequate resistance between now and November. But this is go time. If anyone hasn't mentioned it to you yet, I'm telling you now, this is time to get active. And it's funny that we're talking about this for a Taurus new moon. Taurus, if you don't know, is ruled by the planet Venus, which is about attraction, more so than going out and doing things. And that's not to say that Tauruses can't do the hell out of stuff, because they really can if they care about it. And that's the thing. Me and people like me are not asking you to go out and do things that you don't care about. What we're asking you to do is to care enough about yourself and your community, which, by the way, you are a part of. You are a reflection of. This is how working class people get more working class people on our side, to understand our value and the value of our communities and the value of working together versus fighting for scraps. We have to practice it. We have to embody it in our lives. And that means that we're going to have to do things differently. And that starts with our values, what's important to us, and how that is reflected in our thoughts, in our beliefs, in our actions, and in our relationship to ourselves and other people. This new moon in Taurus is conjunct Mercury, which is also in Taurus, and it's sextile Jupiter in Cancer. Taurus energy is not necessarily concerned with the intellect, but this particular new moon is. And I want to say that the way that we think about this moment that we're in really matters. Because if you look around and you think that you deserve to wait hours in line to vote, or that you or people in your community deserve to be rounded up and put in concentration camps or prisons that are paid for with our tax dollars, by the way, our resources, our hard-earned money, if you think that we deserve inadequate health care, contaminated food, pollution, oceans that are destroyed, then your complacency, your acceptance is only going to tell the universe that you want more of the same. And none of us can afford that. And I think if we were real with ourselves, none of us really want that. We don't have to settle. But the important thing is that we embrace a different mentality, a mentality of the future that we would like to live in, where just because something is challenging doesn't mean we have to suffer through it. Just because something is challenging doesn't mean we're being punished by the universe. Just because something is challenging doesn't mean that it is destined to be that way forever. But perhaps we are just growing, and we are growing strong roots that have to penetrate some really tough material. Those roots are not going to thrive on neglect. They may grow in spite of it, but they're not going to be helped by abandoning its needs, right? And we are very much like roots that are taking hold, that need to become stronger in order to build the kind of change that I think we're all looking for. Change that creates a world that's actually more enjoyable to live in because it's not built on human suffering. We have to reject our own suffering. We have to reject making do. I've been thinking about this so much this Taurus season because I have had a tough couple of years, and I've had some habits come out of that I'm trying to break right now. Like maybe not treating myself to the care and kindness that I actually need. It can be as simple as not spending enough time preparing a delicious meal for myself, or not giving myself the amount of time I really need to rest because I have a lot going on. And I would bet this is true for most of us. So one of the things that I would suggest doing for this Taurus new moon is making a commitment to be kind to yourself. And not only that, but allowing that kindness not to be something that you have to hoard for yourself, right? Because kindness is not a limited resource. Going back to Venus, when we are kinder to ourselves, it's very easy for that kindness to kind of spill out into the rest of the world. Our individualistic culture makes it so easy to shut the rest of the world out and really prioritize ourselves at the expense of other people. But I think when we actually embrace kindness for ourselves and know our own value, naturally we begin understanding the value of others. It becomes unsustainable to treat people like barriers to your own progress, or like they're in the way, or they're just not complying with you. And we have a lot of that. And I think this is one of the reasons why we tend to lack a lot of solidarity, because people are still very much in the mindset of the past, where everyone is a potential enemy or something to be dealt with, whether we think that consciously or not. When we repeat the idea that I don't have time to be good to myself or my community, it becomes self-fulfilling. It becomes something that we carry around with us. So if you haven't already made this shift, this Taurus new moon is a good time. Start small. When we start treating ourselves and the people around us like they actually matter, then guess what happens? We actually start to matter more. We actually get better treatment. We attract better things to ourselves because guess what? The bar is raised. Taurus is the sign that represents our throat and our voice, actually how we communicate with the rest of the world. And too many of us use our voices to degrade rather than to build up. If we're only using our voices to complain and to analyze the things that we don't like, then we are just going to see more of those things. We have to shift our energy, our resources into the things that we want, the things that are meaningful to us. Focusing only on the negatives is simply not going to be enough to build the world that we need and deserve. A helpful exercise for this new moon may be making a list of the things that are important to you. And hopefully the last few months have revealed to you what is actually important, because when shit hits the fan, that has a tendency to happen. If you're uncertain about what matters to you, one way you might think about this is your ideal future. What does that look like? What does it feel like? What do you have in that future? What do people around you have in that future? After doing this, you might notice that the way that you're living your life is not aligned with the things that are important to you for whatever reason. And you may have very good reasons for that. But the power of this new moon is clarifying those things and giving you the opportunity to set a new intention for the coming months on how you're going to embody those values in a way that perhaps you haven't been able to in the past. If you find the house in your astrology chart where 25 degrees and 57 minutes of Taurus is, this will tell you the area of life that this energy will primarily be focused in. So for example, this is happening in my 11th house, which is about aspirations and our future outlook, and also community groups that we're a part of, networks, things like that. If you couldn't already tell, I really value community. I value connection, and I really value having a hopeful idea of the future to move towards, because that is one way that I've been able to create some incredible things in my life that have also impacted other people in my community. For me, for this new moon, I'm going to be setting my intentions around those particular themes. How can I live my life in a way that embodies more of my values in those areas? Where can I close some of those gaps? Where can I better serve those values? How can I be better at signaling to the universe? This is the future I would like to create. These are the communities I would like to be a part of. We have to remember that intentions are not wishes granted by a genie, right? So we actually have to channel our energy in the direction of our intentions. And that means acting on them, setting boundaries for yourself. And sometimes as humans, we don't like that part because it feels like work. But let me remind you, Taurus energy can be incredibly diligent when it values something at working for it, because there's an awareness of that being how things work in the physical realm. But it all comes back to mindset, because when we genuinely value something, when we know that we deserve it, when we know that it's worth it, then that work should not feel like suffering. That work should be a reward in and of itself because you know that you are moving toward the very things that you are manifesting. The work does not have to be suffering. The work does not have to be a punishment. And it is incredibly important that we keep that in mind over the next 6 months, especially because there is much to be done. If we know we're worth it, if we talk to ourselves and our communities with the value that we know we have, then the challenges of getting to that endpoint are simply part of the path. When we know what's worth it, it is so much easier to act like it. And in case anyone hasn't told you recently, you are worth it. You are why I sit down every week in my busy and sometimes ridiculous schedule, and I talk to you and I tell you, it's not always going to be like this. Yeah, we've got a lot of shit on our plate, but we got some good stuff too. And even more is coming. Act like you're worth it, because you are. I hope you have a beautiful Taurus new moon. And if you want to hear more about the current event side of things, because you know there's a hell of a lot going on, join us for Petty Astrology Live this Thursday, May 14th at 5 p.m. Pacific. Join the conversation over on YouTube or Twitch. It is totally free. And if you can't make it live, sponsors get the replay. For just $5 a month, you get bonus episodes of the podcast, replays, and discounts on my readings. To celebrate Taurus season, I'm doing one of my biggest discounts so far for all sponsor levels. You can save big on my most popular reading, which is What's Next? It's a transit reading. We look into your future. This is very helpful if you want some guidance on what the next few months have in store for you and how you can best roll with that energy, because, you know, we got a lot on our plates. And one of the gifts of astrology is that it can make it a little easier to navigate and help us see lights at the end of the tunnel. If you're a member of the Petty Astrology Club, or you'd like to be, we are meeting this Sunday, May 17th at 4 p.m. Pacific over on Zoom. You are welcome to join us. We're going to be talking more about the personal aspects of this Taurus new moon and the recent Scorpio full moon. This is a place for all levels of learners to get more insight about using astrology personally, because these are strange and interesting times we are living in, and it helps to do it together. You can find all the links you need in the show notes. That's it for this week's episode. Tune in on Patreon for even more Petty Astrology. This episode was written, edited, and produced by me, Kaycee Felton-Lui. It was also produced by Dork and Tony Penne. The podcast art is by Max Swanson. The music is by Paul Schneider. This podcast was brought to you by my sponsors over on Patreon.